Breaking news. Welcome to Lafree's Concept TV. Today's headlines. Protest resumes in Ibadan despite Tinubu's broadcast. Protest resumes in Ibadan despite Tinubu's broadcast. To my dear listeners, before I go into details, ensure you like, subscribe and share. Now the details. The ongoing protest against widespread hunger and scarcity of essential commodities across the country resumed on Wednesday in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. This is coming a few days after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu addressed Nigerians in a national broadcast. Tinubu, on Sunday during the national broadcast, said that he had heard the messages of the protesters loud and clear. Our correspondent, however, reports that a group of protesters assembled at the front of the University of Ibadan to continue with the protest on Wednesday. The protesters, who are mainly human rights activists and youths, were seen around the main gate of the University of Ibadan Wednesday morning. The protesters carried different placards to communicate their demands to the public. A spokesman for the protesters, Solomon Emiola, who spoke with Daily Post, noted that the protesters resumed the protest because the national broadcast failed to address the yearnings of Nigerians. Emiola said, "We are protesting because the president failed to address the needs of the Nigerian masses. He has failed to address the needs of the people." He said, "All the demands of the people, the solution to it is rice palliative. And we are tired of eating rice. A bag of rice now is 90,000 naira. I, as a person, don't have a piece of rice in my house now. Not to talk of having a Congo or rice. That means we Nigerians, we are suffering. And with the high cost of living, we cannot go to school because the tuition fees have increased. The tuition fees are above minimum wage. Where do they want us to see it? No employment? Insecurity is there. All the problems keep ravaging, and our president said he's not ready to address it." To my dear listeners, now I've come to the end of our today's news. And now, before I go, in addition to this, I think the spokesman for the protesters in Ibadan today has stated rightly. He said he has no grain of rice, he has no piece of rice in his house, and a bag of rice is now 90,000 naira, comparing to how much they will be selling a Congo of rice. Can we see that the government of today are our oppressors, and we vote them in power? We vote them in power to lead us, to do the rightful thing, to do the rightful things for us, to make things easy for us, not to make it hard for us. You can't imagine going from a distance of a 10-minute walk, and you're spending up to 200 naira, 300 naira. There are high prices in everything. When the president wants to address the nation, he addressed the only rice. And the rice is not for everybody. I think it is for the people working, the civil servant. And they will be getting a rice, talking about palliative of rice. Is that the only thing? Is it just rice we'll be eating in this country? They are not talking about the insecurity. They are not talking about the increment of school fees. They are not talking about the unemployment in this country. What steps has the president made to empower people, to empower the youth, to keep them busy? What steps or what plans has he made? What plans does the president ask for us? The only advice they will give to us is go and learn handwork. When we learn handwork, who are the people that will patronize us when there is no money, when there is no jobs? And as far as I'm concerned, even if they want to get anything, they get their stuffs in a different countries. They have their personal people doing a lot of things for them. They have their own personal tailor. They have their own personal this, and yet they didn't hear the cry of the citizens. They are oppressors. Indeed, they are oppressors. So the poor cannot even go to school again, because we have no money to fund ourselves. It is a different thing to go to school. It is a different thing to have the money to buy the handout and the guidelines. It is another thing to pay for the college, for the school fee, for the departmental fees. What about the feeding? What about the transportation fare to those that are not living in the school environment? It is not easy. The federal government should see to a solution, just a step that will change all these problems that we Nigerians are facing in today's now. And yet they will keep telling us they are ruling us right. There are bad roads. There is insecurity. And yet they didn't want youth to go into something illegal. To when? For